broadcasting, I think, means more to all of us than just a job. How come? I think maybe it's because we were part of the storytelling of Singapore. And we felt that we were doing something important, in big and small ways. We were there watching Lee Kuan Yew go through. We were there at critical moments, New World, COVID, whatever. I mean, we might have just been the one fixing the camera, or laying the cable, or doing the stage. But we felt that we were part of something important. And storytelling is what makes us a tribe, a community. Without memories, we are savages. We are civilized human beings because we have memories. We have books. We have radio, we have television, we have multimedia. Someone has to remember, has to record. Among 100 human beings, not all will have this passion. I think a word Susan used. I think it's genetically distributed. In a family, there'll always be one who's obsessed with genealogy and family history. All the rest are not interested. But the rest are happy to support that person because, yeah, we need him, so that we can all remember. And if we need to make a reference, we can go back to that person. So we rejoice in having the archivist, the historian in the group. And at critical moments, that storytelling delights us, causes us to laugh, to weep, to reflect together. Last year, I was at a festival of Ting Yong. They had sculptures done by a mainland sculptor who practices Tai Chi. I could tell from the sculpture that he did. And they had all the TVB stars who played Ting Yong's characters before. And all the soundtracks. And it was electric. People felt as if they were going back to their childhood memories. And every time we have a recollection like this, all of us feel that we are reliving the Singapore story. But we're getting old, even though we reassure one another that we are looking younger and younger. And somehow, one way or another, we have to transmit. Transmission is an important part of our responsibility. If we fail in the transmission, then we will die as a tribe. So one way or another, we must transmit. And compiling a book is part of transmission. Updating it is part of transmission. Inducting younger people is part of transmission. Doing it in new media forms is part of transmission. It's very important. And I hope MediaCorp, using new technologies, will support this, will facilitate this. I mean, for Bancho, I know, because when I was writing musings, against my publisher's wishes, I decided to include many pictures. And once you include pictures, you can't just include them randomly. You got to find pictures to include. And finding that one picture in 1,000 is looking for needles in haystacks. And it's all your time and nervous energy looking for those particular pictures which you feel you should include, but which you have not yet found in your collection. But if we do it as a group effort, it's much easier. You say, oh, I want the picture, I was a board member of SBC in 1986 or 87. At the time, Yong Pang Hao was the chairman, Cheng Tofak was the vice chairman. We had Dr. Ke Sing Tze on the board. Albert Hong was on the board. We were building, I think, the new radio wing, and one day the wall collapsed. Big litigation, which was resolved through an arbitral process. Second piles failed and so on. So Albert Hong was involved in this. So I wanted a picture in my book of the time when I was a board member of SPC. I couldn't find it. I searched high and low, I asked Un Tai Ho, I asked other people. I gave it up, I said, well, too bad. But weeks later, someone said, I've got a picture of you, a board picture. You know, it delighted me so much that I was able to find that particular picture and to include it in the book. And I'm quite sure that for Mancho, it may be 900 over pictures. But among the 900 over, there would have been maybe 1 or 2 dozens, which took 90% of his time to find and to include. But if we work together, we can fill in each other's gaps. And with the technology available, or maybe it can be made easier. And Lee Kuan Yew took a very personal interest in it. He and Mrs. Lee, they had someone who emigrated to Australia, who started doing oral history. Then we started collecting oral history. And now we've got pictures and clips. Too many. But with technology, we can find a way to make them accessible. And I don't think we've got that. It is not just a service. It is an essential part of storytelling. We are storytellers, or we help storytellers. The danger is, under commercial pressure, we become like any other radio station, any other television station. Then those of us who work here may say it's just another job. We are no longer storytellers about Singapore. I was for 7 years involved in the Vatican. And at one point, I was involved in making changes to the Vatican's communication infrastructure. The whole purpose of evangelization is you must communicate, you must transmit. And when Marconi invented radio, he said this is very important for the Vatican because it has a message to transmit. So Radio Vaticana is the only radio station in the world without a territorial limitation. No, we have this frequency management committee. All of us cannot interfere with one another. The Vatican is the only radio station in the world with no territorial limitation. Because Marconi said, you must transmit the gospel, otherwise you have no church. In Singapore, if we're not able to transmit the Singapore story, which is a story about ourselves, there's no Singapore. So however we privatize and commercialize, this core requirement, which is the need for national storytelling, must be preserved, must not be lost, must be modernized, must be made enriching. The fact that all of us are here, took time off because we feel a certain emotional stirring, I'm sure it's the same with York Swan and Moses and all the others, is because we feel, yes, there's this part of us which in a ways big and small contributed. And we're proud of it. This pride is so important because it makes light of hard work. It makes the work a labor of love. It fires passion. So I hope what you have done, Mancho, will inspire others to do the same. That like you, when you were young, there are young fellows now who are also collecting, who see, well, I better store this somewhere accessible. And later on, other compilations will be made. Then it becomes a tradition of the tribe. Look, the reason why Chinese civilization has preserved its integrity for so long is because from a very early stage, they decided that they had to record. Sima Qi and Ci Qi recorded everything from the early Han all the way back. Then after that, every dynasty recorded the history of every previous dynasty. Only today, they are writing up the history of the Qing dynasty. After so many years, 1911, now 120 years, they're still compiling the history of the Qing dynasty. We must have this instinct. Then the Singapore story will continue to be told. Lee Kuan Yew understood this. He was sick during a long trip. He came back because radio had an important anniversary. So he did not cry out. He asked Wong Lee Seok Tin, draft me a speech. She circulated it to the board. I read it. Then when Lee Kuan Yew gave that speech that night, I compared it to what Seok Tin wrote, word to word. Partly because Lee Kuan Yew was not well, but partly because she was able to write in his words. She understood him, you see. And every leader in Singapore needs storyteller drafters who anticipate his or her needs and make their work easier. So I'm so proud, like all of you, to be part of this storytelling effort and to congratulate Chor Seng and all that you have done in your contribution, I hope, to the tradition and the culture. Thank you.